Blessings, good morning to everyone. Sermon from Genesis, chapter 1, 26 to 31 is titled, Why Are We Here? It's good in life to not just keep on living and doing things, getting caught in a rut, but we need to pause, we need to review our life, see and understand the stations of our life. When was the last time you thought about your marriage? When was the last time you thought about your parenting? Did you take some time off to think about your work? Why do you work? What is it all about? Do you understand why you come to church? Why you are in a Lutheran church? We do need to take time to review our life so that we don't just keep doing things over and over again, but we review and we make course corrections if they are necessary. So the big question in life is, why are we here? What are we doing here on earth? Is there anyone out there? Life makes no sense ultimately if there's no God. If there's no God, then everything ends with this world. Not just a God who is a creator who created all things and then did not care enough for the creation. There needs to be a God who loves us, who journeys with us in life. The question is there really such a God? Thankfully, the Bible reveals that such a God does indeed exist. Now that God is revealed in scriptures, we need to respond to this God. When we ask, why are we here? We don't just live as we like. We need to understand our design and live according to our Creator. And that's what we will explore today. So, Bible tells us that we are created in the image of God. That's the starting point. We are created in the image of God. No evolution, no foolishness. Very clear. We are created in the image of God. So firstly, what is this image of God? What are we created after? We are created in the image of God, and the purpose is so that we may rule over all other creatures. Okay, that's clearly explained to us. We are created in the image of God to rule over every other creature. From that, some people conclude the image of God means we are the rulers, we dominate over all other life forms like God. That's the purpose in life. Boss everyone, lord it over everyone. We are the kings like God. And so that is a bad interpretation. Okay, hope we don't have that interpretation. Now God is the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords supreme. Indeed, God rules over all his creation. Now that is the role, that is the office of God. He is a creator, he rules all things. However, when God comes to relate with his creation, he does not lord it over everything. In fact, God comes to us, he's revealed as a loving father. That's how he comes to us, a loving father. He is also described as a gardener who takes care of his garden. He's pictured as a hen that protects his chicks under his wings. Amazingly, God is even willing to die for us in Jesus Christ. So God in his office rules over all things, but in his relationship, he's a loving being who cares and manages us. This is the image of God that we are created after. So God's duty is to rule over his creation as its creator, but his attitude to creation is that of one who cares for us. So ruling over all things and lording over all things is not what God calls us to do. Ruling over all things means we love, we manage all things. So in practice, our primary role in life is to manage and care for all of God's creation as his steward and as his children. Not only during stewardship month, then we talk about stewardship. We are God's steward everything that you have, God has given to you, but it still belongs to Him, and you must steward it. And we are His children, created in His image. We must behave like His children. We start in our homes. What this means is, fathers are the head of the house. It does not mean fathers lord it over our spouse and our children. Head of the house, ruling over all things, means we love our spouse, love our children, and we manage them, manage our household. Our job is not to lord over our family, but to love and care. In our Eastern tradition, man is bossy, right? Man is the ruler. We think, in terms of like Chinese and Indian culture, oh, man is superior, and whatever I say, you do, kind of thing. Well, that is Indian and Chinese culture. It is not Christian culture. When I married my wife, I have to give some ground rules. So I brought her, set her on the bed, and I told her, in case, you are blinded by love, you are married to an Indian. And I explained to her what it means to be married to an Indian. I told her, Indians, we beat our wives. We don't expect our wives to respond and complain. Don't tell anyone. We beat our wives. That's how we are, Indians. Pause for a while. Then I told her, in case you don't know, I'm a Christian. Christian men don't beat their wives. Now, the question you need to ask, which is more important to me, being an Indian or Christian? My answer is, I'm a Christian first. Christian men don't beat their wife. So though I'm an Indian, I live as a Christian. So we may be Chinese and Indian, we may have this tradition of guys is the head, means we say you do, kind of authoritarian kind of attitude. That's our Eastern culture. But that's not Christ-likeness. Lord it over others is not the way. We love and manage our children. Wives, what about you? What's your role? You're told to be a fit helper. You're designed to be a fit helper to men. Not to become his slave. Not to be subservient. But you are called to submit to the man. Because there's an order. God is a God of order. Even the son submits to the father. There's an order. Order in society, order in the church, order in the family. And so wife submits to the husband because the husband loves her. That is the way it ought to be. We are told in Ephesians that husbands must love their wife and wives must submit to their husband. So mothers are created as helpers to care for the children and to manage the household. Share leadership in the household. What about children? All you young folks, what are you doing in your household? Are you contributing to your family? Not necessarily monetarily, but as you grow up, are you taking responsibility? Are you, as you grow up, are you part of that leadership in the family? Are you taking care of the little ones? Are you taking care of at least your room, keep it neat and tidy? Are you contributing to your family? Now, I pray that even if your parents pamper you, you learn to grow up as responsible adults. Some parents will pamper us. That's not the way to go. Everyone, father, mother, children, everyone as we grow must take responsibility in the family. Now, as we grow in this attitude of managing and caring for one another in the family, then this practice and this attitude of responsibility must then take place in other areas of society, in our workplace, in our schools, and in society in general. We do not rise in power and position to lord over others, but to care and manage for those that are under our charge. In your workplace, are you in charge of people under you? Are you lording it over others? Are you bossing them? Or are you there so that it's for the welfare of the people under you? And that contributes to the welfare of the company. How are we treating people? Christianity is about relationship, not just in church. Everywhere we go, how do we see people? We are created in the image of God, and so are everyone else. So we respect everyone else, no matter how low they are in society. That's what it means to be the image of God. The people of the world will lord it over others. But Christians who understand God's call are called to live according to God's design as revealed in the Word. One day, we will all stand before the throne of Jesus and give an answer to how we have lived. Many times in my sermon, I make mention of this because I live with this reality that I will stand before Jesus one day. And so I live this life with that understanding. I must live responsibly before the Lord. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is true understanding. Now, the other thing that's told to us is that we are created as male and female. Did you know that? We are created as male and female. Amazing revelation. Now you may say, it's so obvious, you don't even have to explain. We all know this, right? Who doesn't know we are created male and female? Why state the obvious? If you know what's happening in the West, it's not so obvious. Doctors, politicians, court judges cannot define what is a woman. In the Senate, they asked a federal judge, someone is going to be appointed, ask her, can you define what is a woman? And she, I cannot define what is a woman. I'm not a doctor. You need to be a doctor to define what is a woman? That's how bad things are in the West. And so when I read this, God created us in His image. God also created us male and female. It's because when we lose sight of God, we'll start to break down every rule in the rule book. Even question basic stuff. What is male and female? Confusion reigns. The push is towards gender fluidity. It means you can be whatever you desire, whatever gender you want. Doesn't matter. You choose what gender you want. That's what they are saying in the West. Listen, you can change your nationality, you can change your religion, but you cannot choose your gender or race. That is biological. Michael Jackson, everybody knows Michael Jackson. Hey, I think, I don't listen to English song, but I think he sang a song, it doesn't matter if you're black and white, something like that, right? It doesn't matter if you're black and white, but apparently it does to Michael Jackson because he went and changed his skin from black to white, right? He changed his hairstyle, afro to straight, trying to be a white man. Yes, in appearance he has changed. Does that make him any less black? He's still African, Afro-American. You cannot change your race. You cannot change your biology. Yeah, in sex, you can do sex operation, change your outward form. As someone said, when you're dead and gone, 100 years later, they dig up your bone. They cannot tell what your thoughts are, what your beliefs are. But looking at your bone, they can tell whether you're male or female. I watched one video, a small girl, she was looking at a skeletal structure and saying, oh, this is this bone, this is bone. Then she comes to the pelvic bone, say, oh, this is pelvic bone. It's large, it's a female pelvic bone because the children need to be born and so it must be wide. A small girl can explain this. Looking at the bone, she can tell that. And here are adults who cannot define what is a woman. Very sad. Now, He didn't mean it, Michael Jackson. That's why, even though he tried to change, he cannot change. Without a clear understanding of what is male and female, marriages are in trouble. Marriages tend to break down. Listen, we can seek gender equality. I'm all for gender equality. Equality within male and female. I'm all for that. But not gender equity. Equality, equity are two different things. Go and Google to find the difference. So we treat women with respect and honor, but not equity. Equity doesn't work. Now, some people want to remove the reality of male and female identity and just say, oh, it's just a social construct. You are a male because when you're young, your parents bought male toys, guns and cars, and made you into a male. Or you are a female because they bought female toys for you, dolls and so on, and gave you pink color clothes, and then you got psychoed into being a female. That's what they tell us, social construct. It's not social construct. It's God designed. And so now in the West they have problems. Males can enter female sports and beat the females in all kind of sports, break their records. In women fashion magazine and all, the poster in the front is a male with female swimsuits and all kinds of things. Females are losing their place, losing their identity. That's what happens when you don't recognize God, when you don't live according to God's will. Rejecting God's truth, rejecting God Himself. These folks are claiming to be wise, and yet they become fools. That's what Romans tells us. Men try to be smart, they become fools. So be forewarned. God will judge all our lives. We cannot just live as we like and think we can get away with it. We can get away with it in this life, but we will stand before God and give an account to how we have lived. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is true understanding, insight. The other thing we can learn about our creation from this text is that we are created to be fruitful and to multiply in number. So God created us in His image. God created us with gendered responsibilities. We are different, male and female different. We have different strengths. It's not that male is stronger than female. We are stronger in some ways. Female are stronger in some way. Together we build our families, which are building block of society. If you live according to God's will, your families will be stronger, the church will be stronger, society will be stronger. Now, God has also given us healthy goals. God blesses us to be fruitful and to multiply, increase in number. Notice, God didn't command them to be fruitful and multiply. It's not you go and be fruitful and multiply. It's not like you do this thing. But when God created us, He says, I'm blessing you. I am blessing you to be fruitful. I'm blessing you to multiply. God wants to bless His creation, bless us. So as you live your life, you need to know from the start, God is a God who blesses you. Blesses you to be fruitful and to multiply. When God created the world initially, obviously Adam and Eve cannot take care of the whole world. They need to increase. So that's the obvious reason. Now there's a trend again in the West of blaming mankind for all the problems that we have on earth. They say man is polluting, man meaning mankind. Man is polluting the earth, causing climate change, which will destroy the world. Man is overpopulating the earth and causing poverty and endangering animal habitats. Man, with his foolishness, will destroy the world with nuclear war. And so, what is the solution? If you keep saying mankind is the problem of everything, and some people literally believe in this. we must reduce mankind. And how do they reduce mankind? Well, some justify abortion. Don't have children. If you have children, abort them. Because there's too many people on earth. We are causing a lot of problem. Man is a problem. Abort the children. Some may promote childless marriages. Yeah, you get married, but don't have children. I mean, there's enough children in this world. Why bring more children into this world? Mankind is a problem. And obviously, euthanasia is legalized in some countries. Oh, he's no more productive. Get rid of him. Just kill him. Now, in contrast to God's command to increase in number, is the foolishness of man saying that let's destroy mankind. Let's kill ourselves. That is the foolishness of mankind. Do not listen to all this foolishness. God wants to bless you and to increase in numbers. Don't worry, God is not foolish. He has created the world. You cannot pollute it until everything is destroyed. God's earth is not so small that man can destroy it. Not with pollution, not with nuclear wars. God has the authority and the power to prevent all these things. Of course, in the end, God will destroy the world because of sin and non-repentance. That's another matter. Now, God is not simply calling us to increase in numbers. God is not saying, oh, you wicked people, go and increase in numbers and let the earth be filled with all kinds of wickedness. That's not what God does. That's the story of Noah. The earth was full of people, but all wicked, not obeying God. What did God do? Destroy the earth. So it's not simply increase in numbers. We must realize He said, be fruitful and increase in numbers. So you cannot just increase in numbers. You must be fruitful and then you increase in numbers. What does that really mean? A good tree will produce good fruit. A bad tree will produce bad fruit. So God doesn't want to have bad trees producing bad fruit. You know, there are stories in the Bible, the tree is not fruitful, what do? Chop it down. The tree is bearing bad fruit, what do? Chop it down. It's not simply increase in numbers. Be fruitful and increase in numbers. So if you want to increase, whether physically bearing children or spiritually as a church growth, first be fruitful in yourself. We need to be fruitful. We need to have good characters. We need to walk after Christ. Be Christ-like, loving, forgiving, gracious. And then we produce physical children. Teach them Christ-like values. So that everyone will relate with one another like Christ, with love, grace, forgiveness, mercy. And then there'll be strong families, strong communities, strong churches. The church wants to grow in number. Why? We are afraid that we will not have enough offerings, cannot support me. That's not the reason to grow the church. Why do we want to grow? We must grow because we love God. We know the love of God. We respond to this God in love and worship. We enjoy God. And because we enjoy God, we go and tell other people, come, see this God. He's so wonderful, so loving. Why would you not worship this God? And He promises us a better place than this earth. I've experienced the love and the grace and the mercies and the promises of God. And I want to share this with others. That is the motive for evangelism. Not simply we want to grow the church or we want to be the largest church in Singapore. That's all man's ambitions. That's rubbish. Love God and then reach out to people. Now, unless we adults, unless we are godly, Christ-like character, loving God. Simply, greatest commandment, I always say this. Love God and love your neighbor. Unless we do this, our children, our youth will not have good role models to follow. Do you want this church to be a church where Christ is exalted? where we are lovers of God, where we are sincere in our love for our neighbor. It's not going to happen. You can have a wish list. It's not going to happen unless each one of us take responsibility to love God and to love our neighbor and live that out in life. Just because we are good parents or good church leaders doesn't mean our children will follow us. That's their choice. But if we are bad role models, our children do not have even the starting point to grow in Christ-likeness. We must be Christ-like. We must love God and neighbor, not just for ourselves, for one another, to build such a community. So for the sake of our homes, our church and society, be godly. Love God and love neighbor. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And knowledge of the Holy One is true understanding. Now, we are also told other things about creation. Some people think that God created us, and then God is an absent father. He creates, and then he doesn't bother, he just runs away. That's some people's understanding of God. I mean, otherwise, why are there so many problems in this world? That's the only way to explain. We are here, no choice. Okay, God created us. That's the reason. But look at all the problem. God doesn't care. He creates, he goes. Absent father. So they want us to believe that God doesn't care. But in creation, after creating us, God cared. He says, I will give you every seed-bearing plant. I've created you. I created a stomach for you. But I'm not going to leave you like without food to eat. I know you need food. I'm creating all the plants for you to eat, the fruits for you to eat. And so God, unlike some people, God is a God who loves us and provides for our needs. And this provision is not just in terms of food. Here it's talking about food. But we know that God has provided lungs and air for the lungs. He has made the world beautiful and eyes to see. He has enabled us to walk with our legs, hands to work. Every bit of us is God's grace to us. When you wake up in the morning, give thanks for your body. Give thanks for your life. I've said this many times. If you want to be happy, stop complaining, start giving thanks and praise. Don't have to have any big testimonies. Just for the simple things. Start with the simple things. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Don't just sing it. Practice it. And you will see yourself becoming a more joyful person, and you will influence people around you. Now, all the poverty and problems, we cannot deny there's poverty and problems. But here, we need to understand that God is not the one who causes all these problems. It's not that God didn't provide enough food and so on. In fact, there's enough food for everyone. There are enough resources for everyone in this world. The problem is human greed and hoarding. All the resources are in the hands of very few people, few rich people, few rich families. That is a sad truth. But let me ask you, what are you doing about this? Complaining about poverty and all these things, but do you do anything about it? It's part of your salary given to do social work. Are you involved in ComCare? The church has a ComCare, has a CLP program. Easter bread distribution, we do things. Beside mission, we do social things. LCS has a LCCS, Community and Care arm. We have Seafarers missions. You can complain all you like. There's poverty, there's problem, there's suffering. Where is God? And God is saying, where are you? What are you doing? So let's not blame God. Let's do what we can. We can make a difference at least in our part of the world. We don't have to be millionaires to change the world. Just look after one family that's in need. Care for one person who's hungry today. Bring them, buy food for them. Make a difference. We must obey God's law to love our neighbors. God is watching us. We will stand before God one day. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And knowledge of the Holy One is true insight. Now, the other thing that we get from this passage is, after God has created all things, He evaluated. And then He says, it was all good. So God creates all things and God says it's all good. We cannot blame God for the evil in this world, for the problems, the pain and sufferings. These are consequences of our own foolishness. Now, the world is condemned, unfortunately. This world is condemned. You cannot save this world. It's a condemned world. But you can save souls, and that's what God calls us to do. I'm not saying that you cannot contribute to the well-being of this earth. No. I've said many times, when you leave the room, make sure you switch off the light. Don't let the tap run. No. These are resources that God has given to us. Manage, rule over the world means responsibility. I'm not against all that. But at the end of the day, the truth is you cannot save this world. This world is condemned. God will destroy this world because the sin of man will keep on increasing. The cup of wrath overflows and God will destroy this world. Do not invest in this world beyond what you need to. You need to invest in this world so that you have a comfortable house. You need to provide for a family. Yeah, do invest in this world and don't pollute this world and so on. But have this understanding, this world is not our final home. And so God calls us to invest in souls. You cannot save this world. You cannot take your house, your car, your whatever when you leave this world. But you can save souls. And start with your own soul. Make sure your soul is well. Make sure you love the Lord, you walk, you're joyful in life. And then reach other souls. Some of you might say, well, I'm not good in sharing the gospel. I'm timid. I'm scared to speak to people. That's fine. Not all of us are able to speak and stand in front of crowds and so on. But even if you're very shy and quiet, you can share the gospel, not in words, but in the way you live your life. Shine for Jesus. Some of us, we will talk. Others will act. If you cannot be a talker, act. Live out the gospel. But even the preacher must act. Cannot just talk and don't act. Right. So let's not just think about sharing the gospel means only speaking. It's how we live our lives. In our homes, in our workplace, in school, in society. So review and reflect upon your life, because we will stand before God one day. We will account for the life we have lived in this world. Do not just live as you like. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is true understanding. If you want to live this life, you must have fear. Without the fear of God, you will go into all kind of foolishness. And you must know God, because God is truth. And without God, you will go into all kind of false understanding of what it means to be a man and a woman, what it means to be in the image of God, what it means to live here on earth. So why are we here on earth? Think about that and let the Creator lead you and guide you. Now today's gospel text is the Great Commission. I've chosen not to preach on that. But I want to say that even as we are called to go out and make disciples, first we must live the life. Love God, walk with God. And then we can go out and do the Great Commission. So the context of the Great Commission is from the beginning. God has called us to be fruitful and then to multiply. So don't just go and make disciples. Be a disciple, a good disciple, a faithful disciple. Then go out and replicate the life. May the Lord pour out His Spirit upon us in this Pentecost season so that we live like Christ and serve in His